On June 2, 2026, the White House made a move that could reshape how America builds AI, and almost no one is talking about what they quietly removed. President Trump signed an executive order that replaced a stricter proposal, and the difference between the two tells you everything about where US AI policy is heading. Let's start with the facts, because the details matter here. On June 2, 2026, President Donald J. Trump signed an executive order titled Promoting Advanced Artificial Intelligence Innovation and Security. Now, on the surface, that title sounds like a balanced, two-sided thing, innovation and security. And the White House fact sheet frames it exactly that way, advancing American AI innovation to strengthen cybersecurity and protect critical infrastructure. But here's what's interesting and what a lot of coverage glossed over. This order replaced an earlier proposal, one that reportedly contained stricter requirements for AI companies. The word used across the reporting was narrowed. The White House narrowed its AI oversight approach. Think about what that means in practice. Somewhere between the first draft and the signed order, requirements got watered down or removed entirely. We're talking about the difference between you must do X and we encourage you to do X. The administration's stated reasoning is straightforward and worth quoting directly. The United States, they say, continues to lead the world in AI because of the enormous talent and innovation of the AI industry, and because, in their words, we refuse to stifle this innovation with overly burdensome regulation. That's the philosophical core. The belief is that regulation is the enemy of progress, and that America's competitive edge depends on letting companies move fast. The question I want you to hold in your head is this: when you remove stricter requirements from an AI oversight proposal, what exactly are you giving up in exchange for speed? You can't understand this executive order without understanding the pressure the US is under. This isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening in the middle of what can only be described as a global AI arms race. Consider what else was happening that exact same week in early June 2026. Google used Google I/O in late May to confirm that Gemini 3.5 Pro was, quote, coming next month, which means the June 2026 release window was officially open. That's Google telling the world they're not slowing down, and they're certainly not waiting for regulators to catch up. Meanwhile, innovation is happening everywhere, not just in American labs. That same week, a French startup called Zenkolab demonstrated AI that can analyze retinal images and detect certain eye diseases at an early stage. That's real medical AI deployed for real patients in Europe. If France is shipping AI that detects eye disease from retina scans, the competition isn't just theoretical anymore. So here's the tension the administration is managing. On one hand, China, the EU, and companies across the globe are pushing forward aggressively on AI. The EU has its own regulatory framework, the AI Act, which takes the opposite approach, imposing strict compliance requirements. The US administration is looking at that and saying, essentially, that's not our path. The bet is that lighter regulation produces faster breakthroughs, bigger models, and ultimately a stronger strategic position. And there's evidence for that view. American companies like OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, and Meta are producing the most capable models in the world right now. But the counterargument is just as real. Speed without guardrails has historically led to problems that cost more to fix later than they would have cost to prevent. Now let's talk about the other word in that title, security, because this is where the order gets genuinely interesting beyond just regulation bad, innovation good. The executive order explicitly ties AI advancement to cybersecurity and the protection of critical infrastructure. That's not boilerplate. That reflects a real and growing concern. As AI systems become more powerful, they become both a defensive tool and an offensive weapon. AI can be used to detect cyber threats faster than any human analyst. But AI can also be used to generate sophisticated phishing attacks, to find zero-day vulnerabilities automatically, and to power disinformation campaigns at scale. When the government says it wants to strengthen cybersecurity through AI innovation, what they likely mean is investing in AI-powered defensive systems, automated threat detection, network anomaly identification, that kind of thing. The military and intelligence applications are obviously significant too, though the order's public framing stays on the infrastructure and cybersecurity side. Here's my read on this. The security framing is doing double duty. It's genuinely a real priority, protecting the power grid, water systems, and financial infrastructure with AI tools is legitimate and urgent. But it's also a political justification for the light-touch regulatory approach. It's easier to sell we're cutting regulation when you frame it as we're strengthening security. The two goals aren't contradictory, but they're not the same thing either. You can promote rapid AI deployment and still impose meaningful safety requirements. The fact that the stricter version was removed suggests the administration chose to prioritize speed and industry freedom over precautionary measures. Let me give you my honest analysis here, because this is where I think the real story lives. The administration's position that regulation stifles innovation is not crazy. It's not fringe. There's a strong historical argument for it. The internet itself grew largely unregulated in its early years, and that lack of constraint is part of why it became the most transformative technology of our lifetimes. Overregulate early, the argument goes, and you kill the thing before it has a chance to bloom. But here's where I think the analogy breaks down. The early internet couldn't generate code, write convincing propaganda, or be embedded into critical infrastructure on day one. AI can. The risk profile is fundamentally different. When Facebook launched, the worst-case scenario was some awkward social interactions. When an advanced AI model is deployed into healthcare, financial systems, or defense networks, the worst-case scenario is materially different. The executive order's approach essentially trusts the industry to self-regulate, to innovate responsibly, to implement their own safety measures, to not cut corners in pursuit of competitive advantage. And to be fair, major AI companies have published safety frameworks, formed safety institutes, and invested in alignment research. But trusting a competitive market to self-police has a terrible track record. Think about social media. Think about the 2008 financial crisis. Every time we've said the industry will handle it, the industry has handled it badly. My take, the US will probably maintain its AI lead under this framework. The models will keep getting bigger. The breakthroughs will keep coming. But I think we're storing up problems for the future, problems around misinformation, autonomous system failures, and security vulnerabilities that will eventually require regulation anyway. The question is whether that regulation comes proactively, when it's cheap, or reactively, after something goes wrong, when it's expensive. So what does all of this actually mean for you, watching this in June 2026? Let me make it concrete. If you work in tech, this executive order signals that the US government wants you to build faster, with fewer compliance hurdles. That means more funding flowing to AI startups, fewer legal barriers to deploying AI products, and a regulatory environment that's going to be permissive for the foreseeable future. If you've been thinking about starting an AI company or pivoting your career toward AI, the government just sent a signal that says, go. If you're an investor, this is bullish for AI infrastructure companies, chip manufacturers, and large model builders. The companies best positioned are the ones that can move fastest and deploy at scale, which in the current landscape means the big players with massive compute resources. The lighter the regulation, the more the advantage shifts to whoever can spend the most. If you're a consumer or a citizen, the picture is more complicated. You'll get AI products faster and cheaper. You'll see AI showing up in your apps, your workplace, your healthcare sooner than you would under a stricter regime. That's a genuine benefit. But you'll also bear more of the risk when those systems fail, because there won't be a regulatory framework forcing companies to test thoroughly before they ship. And if you're watching from outside the United States, this order is a declaration that the US is playing to win the AI race on speed, not on caution. The EU will regulate more. China will deploy at massive scale with state backing. The US is betting that the middle path, light regulation, private sector freedom, security-focused investment, is the winning formula. Here's where I land on all of this. The executive order signed on June 2, 2026 is not a surprise. It's consistent with everything this administration has signaled about technology policy. And it might well be the right call for American competitiveness in the short term. The US is in a race, and you don't win races by adding weight. But I keep coming back to one thought. Every major technology, from electricity to nuclear power to the internet, eventually got regulated after we learned, often painfully, what the risks actually were. The question was never whether AI would be regulated. The question was whether we'd be smart enough to regulate it before something went wrong, or whether we'd wait until after. With this executive order, the United States has answered that question. We're going to wait. Maybe that's fine. Maybe the industry will self-police effectively and will look back on this moment as the moment America secured its AI dominance. Or maybe, a few years from now, we'll wish we'd kept those stricter requirements. Either way, history is being written right now, and we're all living inside the experiment. The future, as this channel's name suggests, may well be bright. But it's also being built at maximum speed with the guardrails off, and I think that's worth paying very close attention to.